We're going to take a look at the command and control structure of ISIS. I'm joined by Juan Zarate, CBS News' senior national security analyst, also worked in the Bush administration, and Brian Katulis from the Progressive Center for American Progress. Thanks for joining us.
My pleasure.
So let's talk first about where did ISIS come from?
Well, ISIS didn't come out of the blue. I think there's a sense because they've been marauding, taking over major towns and territory, that they've sort of come out of the blue. But the reality is this is a group that's born out of al-Qaeda in Iraq, that once called itself the Islamic State of Iraq, gained momentum in the security vacuum of Syria, gained resources, territory, fighters, has released prisoners from major prisons, and has benefited from the sectarian tension and vacuums in Iraq. And so they've been able to build momentum, build up their resources cadre, and they've had fairly aggressive leadership. Abu Bakr al-Baghdadi has led this group in a way, in a rather visionary way from his perspective, to establish this Islamic State. And so this is a group that has been born out of Western Iraq largely and Sunni disaffection, but really has gained momentum in the security vacuum of both Syria and Iraq.
And as we try to deal with these folks, what does the U.S. know? I mean, how are we able? How's our intelligence in terms of dealing with their communication and figuring out what they're going to do next?
Well, historically, I think we know quite a bit about these networks. We were on the ground. We were fighting a lot of these guys. Keep in mind, we had Abu Bakr al-Baghdadi in custody. So it's not as if these are unknown characters to us. What is unknown, though, is what they've been able to build in terms of their infrastructure, how they're running some of their pipelines of foreign fighters, how they're actually running their economy. Some of that is not well known to us. And frankly, I think the scary part for counterterrorism officials, both in the United States and in Europe, is not understanding well enough if this is really a group just devoted to the regional goals of establishing the Islamic Caliphate, or if they are at the same time developing the global, not just ambitions, but capabilities to attack the West. And I think that's really the nightmare scenario. You have the establishment of a safe haven and the ability not only to control territory and terrorize on the ground, but also then to reach the United States with operatives either coming from the West or otherwise trained.
There are some critics out there that say they could be responsible for the next 9/11. What are your thoughts about that?
Well, I think it's right. I mean, I think 9/11 is so dramatic in and of itself with 3,000 Americans dead. But you look at the network that this group has been able to acquire, dozens of Americans, perhaps hundreds of Europeans, others coming from Australia around the world. They have greater global reach, perhaps, than al-Qaeda did 10 or 15 years ago. It's a very dangerous scenario that I know our Homeland Security officials are watching. I think we've gotten a lot better, too, in terms of playing defense, and that's a good thing. I think that's a reason why I think we've not seen an attack.
Do they have the organization, though, that al-Qaeda did to put something together like 9/11? Or?
Well, in some ways they don't, because al-Qaeda through the 90s was building up the sort of the international and global networks that then allowed them to attack the United States, not just in places like East Africa or Yemen with the embassy bombings attack or the USS Cole attack, but then to reach into the United States. But what's different here is the environment in which this group is gaining momentum. One, they're able to piggyback off of some of these networks that al-Qaeda has already created. They're able to pull these foreign fighters, as Brian said, from around the world. And I think U.S. officials have discounted too much the symbolic importance of what they've done to establish the Islamic State. I mean, this was the wild ambition of bin Laden, right, to establish the caliphate, or to begin to do so in the heart of the Middle East. This group is doing it. You can argue about whether or not it's going to, outlive the environment or not, but the reality is they've done it, and that's creating a lot of attention, a lot of enthusiasm. They're peeling individuals and groups from al-Qaeda. They're piggybacking off of the network that al-Qaeda has already built, and you're seeing as far away as Australia and Southeast Asia, Europe, Canada, North America, this group is inspiring a number of actors, and that's dangerous. And it's not a matter of which survives first, al-Qaeda or this Islamic State. They can both survive in the same environment and actually feed off of each other. And I think that's unfortunately what we're seeing happening.
Really, really interesting. Thank you both for joining us. Brian Katulis from the Center for American Progress, Juan Zarate from CBS News. I'm Steve Chaggaris from CBSNews.com. Thanks for watching.